nest." The Englishman turned his head from side to side, as though looking for assistance. "That's no better. And also, are you quite sure that you are entitled to lay hands upon me? Come, be a sportsman." The display of sportsmanlike qualities was not particularly tempting on this occasion. Nevertheless, it probably appeared to Shears to be the wisest course, for he half rose and coldly introduced his companion. "Mr. Wilson, my friend and assistant, Monsieur Arsène Lupin." Wilson's stupefaction made us all laugh. His eyes and mouth, both wide open, drew two streaks across his expansive face, with its skin gleaming and tight-stretched like an apple's, while his bristly hair stood up like so many thick-set, hardy blades of grass. "Wilson, you don't seem able to conceal your bewilderment at one of the most natural incidents in the world," grinned Holmlock Shears, with a touch of sarcasm in his voice. Wilson stammered, Why don't you arrest him?" "Don't you see, Wilson, that the gentleman is standing between the door and myself, and at 2 steps from the door? Before I moved a finger, he would be outside." "Don't let that stand in your way," said Lupin. He walked round the table and sat down, so that the Englishman was between him and the door, thus placing himself at his mercy. Wilson looked at Shears to see if he might admire this piece of pluck. Shears remained impenetrable. But, after a moment, he called, "Waiter!" The waiter came up. 4 whiskies and sodas. Peace was signed, until further orders. Soon after, seated all 4 round one table, we were quietly chatting. Holmlock Shears is a man of the sort one meets every day. He's about 50 years of age, and looks like a decent city clerk who has spent his life keeping books at a desk. He has nothing to distinguish him from the ordinary respectable Londoner, with his clean-shaven face and his somewhat heavy appearance. Nothing except his terribly keen, bright, penetrating eyes. And then, of course, he is Holmlock Shears, that is to say, a sort of miracle of intuition, of insight, of perspicacity, of shrewdness. It is as though nature had amused herself by taking the 2 most extraordinary types of detective that fiction had invented, Paul's Dupin and Gaboriau's Lecoq, in order to build up one in her own fashion, more extraordinary yet and more unreal. And, upon my word, anyone hearing of the adventures which have made the name of Holmlock Shears famous all over the world must feel inclined to ask if he is not a legendary person, a hero who was stepped straight from the brain of some great novel writer, of a Conan Doyle, for instance. He at once, when Arsène Lupin asked him how long he meant to stay, led the conversation into its right channel and replied, "That depends upon yourself, Monsieur Lupin." "Oh!" exclaimed the other, laughing. "If it depended on me, I should ask you to take tonight's boat back." "Tonight is rather early, but I hope in a week or 10 days." "Are you in such a hurry?" "I am very busy. There's a robbery at the Anglo-Chinese Bank, and Lady Ecclestone has been kidnapped, as you know. Tell me, Monsieur Lupin, do you think a week will do?" "Amply, if you confine yourself to the 2 cases connected with the blue diamond. It will just give me time to take my precautions, supposing the solution of those 2 mysteries to give you certain advantages over me that might endanger my safety." "Yes," said the Englishman, "I expect to have gained those advantages in a week or 10 days." "And to have me arrested on the 11th?" "On the 10th, at the very latest." Lupin reflected and, shaking his head, "It will be difficult, it will be difficult." "Difficult, yes, but possible, and therefore certain." "Absolutely certain," said Wilson, as though he himself had clearly perceived the long series of operations which would lead his friend to the result announced. Holmlock Shears smiled. "Wilson, who knows what he is talking about, is there to confirm what I say." And he went on, "Of course, I have not all the cards in my hands, because the case is already a good many months old. I have not the factors, the clues upon which I am accustomed to base my enquiries." "Such as mud-stains and cigarette ashes," said Wilson with an air of importance. "But, in addition to the remarkable conclusions arrived at by Monsieur Ganimard, I have at my service all the articles written on the subject, all the evidence collected, and, consequently, a few ideas of my own regarding the mystery. A few views suggested to us either by analysis or hypothesis," added Wilson sententiously. Would it be indiscreet, said Arsène Lupin, in the deferential tone which he adopted toward Shears, would it be indiscreet to ask what general opinion you have been able to form? It was really most stimulating to see those two men seated together, with their elbows on the table, arguing solemnly and dispassionately, as though they were trying to solve a steep problem or to come to an agreement on some controversial point. And this was coupled with a very delicate irony which both of them, as experts and artists, thoroughly enjoyed. As for Wilson, he was in the seventh heaven. Shears slowly filled his pipe, lit it, and said, I consider that this case is infinitely less complicated than it appears at first sight. Very much less, echoed Wilson faithfully. I say the case, for, in my opinion, there is but one case. The death of Baron d'Hautrec, the story of the ring, and, don't let us forget that, the mystery of number 514 series 23, are only the different aspects of what we may call the puzzle of the blonde lady. Now, in my opinion, what lies before me is simply to discover the link which connects these three phases of the same story, the particular fact which proves the uniformity of the three methods. Ganimard, who is a little superficial in his judgments, sees this uniformity in the faculty of disappearing, in the power of coming and going unseen. This intervention of miracles does not satisfy me. Well? Well, according to me, said Shears decidedly, the characteristic shared by the three incidents lies in your manifest and evident, although hitherto unperceived, intention to have the affair performed on a stage which you have previously selected. This points to something more than a plan on your part, a necessity rather, a sine qua non of success. Could you give a few particulars? Easily. For instance, from the commencement of your contest with Monsieur Gerbois, it was evident that Maître Detinan's flat was the place selected by you, the inevitable place at which you were all to meet. No place seemed quite as safe to you, so much so that you made what one might almost call a public appointment there with the blonde lady and Mademoiselle Gerbois. The daughter of the professor, explained Wilson. Let us now speak of the blue diamond. Did you try to get hold of it during all the years that Baron d'Hautrec had it in his possession? No. But the baron moves into his brother's house. 6 months later, Antoinette Bréat appears upon the scene, and the first attempt is made. You fail to secure the diamond, and the sale takes place, amid great excitement, at the Hôtel Drouot. Is the sale free? Is the richest bidder sure of getting the diamond? Not at all. At the moment when Hirschman is about to become the owner, a lady has a threatening letter thrust into his hand, and the diamond goes to the Comtesse de Crozon, who has been worked upon and influenced by the same lady. Does it vanish at once? No, you lack the facilities. So an interval ensues, but the countess moves to her country house. This is what you were waiting for. The ring disappears. To reappear in the tooth-powder of Bleichen, the consul, objected Lupin. How odd! Come, come, said Shears, striking the table with his fist. Tell that to the marines. You can take in fools with that, but not an old fox like me. What do you mean? Shears took his time, as though he wished to save up his effect. Then he said, the blue diamond found in the tooth-powder is an imitation diamond. The real one you kept. Arsène Lupin was silent for a moment, and then, with his eyes fixed on the Englishman, said very simply, You're a great man, sir. Isn't he? Said Wilson, emphatically and gaping with admiration. Yes, said Lupin. Everything becomes cleared up and appears in its true sense. Not one of the examining magistrates, not one of the special reporters who have been exciting themselves about these cases has come half as near the truth. I look upon you as a marvel of insight and logic. Pooh! Said the Englishman, flattered at the compliment paid him by so great an expert. It only needed a little thought. It needed to know how to use one's thought, and there are so few who do know. But now that the field of surmise has been narrowed and the ground swept clear, well, now all that I have to do is to discover why the three cases were enacted at 25 Rue Clépeyron, at 134 Avenue Henri Martin, and within the walls of the Château de Crozon. The whole case lies there. The rest is mere talk and child's play. Don't you agree? I agree. In that case, Monsieur Lupin, Am I not right in saying that I shall have finished my business in 10 days?